What is up, guys? Welcome back to another Anime Last Stand video. Today I'm going to be getting the Heavenly Chad Extreme Boost, which I have Glitch and Glorious on, and believe me, he is broken. Okay, yep, you guys already know what we're doing today. We're going to be extreme boosting this guy. Now, I already got Glitched and Glorious on him, but I do need 150 Divine Tokens, which, in all honesty, I should have been a little more prepared for this update. I should have known, yeah, some characters are getting some Extreme Boost and Divine Boost. So now I guess we gotta go ahead and do 5 stages. Oh, okay, so interestingly enough, you don't get to use your own loadout, you have to use a loadout that's given to you for this. Which they, okay, so they do have some, they already do have like decent stats on them. I would assume this is the boosted version of him, which it is, otherwise he wouldn't have these extra passives. So the first passive, Reality Overwrite, when attacking an enemy with less than or equal to 4 different status effects, permanently mark it with Overwrite. If Ancient Vampire Over Heaven is in range, remove the requirement to mark enemies with Overwrite, which will make them take 45% more damage from crits, and they are slowed by 15% permanently. So basically, we're just buffing this guy while also giving Dio Over Heaven a use, which, I'm gonna be honest, I actually like that concept very much. I like the idea of him needing a use. Now, something I'm really liking here are these extra stats, because this guy doesn't see... Okay, he has the Avatar trait. He has the Avatar trait, but does not have a but does not have an enchant. So this is gonna be very similar to what our damage is gonna look like, but it's gonna be slightly better because we're gonna have an extra like 50% damage and a better trait. But he is a full AoE unit, which I do actually really like. His VFX does not look like it should be, his VFX does not look like it should be full AoE, because hold on, let me look at this real quick. I feel like that's not really full AoE worthy of a VFX, but you know what, whatever. Okay, so in the previous game, I wasn't really looking at this, but he does have even more passives after a few upgrades. So the next passive right here is that upon attacking an enemy with Overwrite, cycle 1 effect every 3 attacks. So there's the Soul effect, which is 1.5% max HP damage with a cap of 1 trillion. The Biological, which set to neutral for 45 seconds, takes 200% extra damage from all enemies, from all elements, not enemies. And Power, deal 5 times damage to all enemies in range. And then the Time, which time stops all enemies in range for 5 seconds. And then lastly, the Healing, which will cleanse debuffs of all units in range. So then if Dio Over Heaven is in range, he will cycle every 3 attacks regardless of requirements. So basically, you just wouldn't need to attack an enemy with Overwrite. Now, the next passive, which is Creation, whenever a crit is missed, gain 5% crit chance permanently until 100%. At more than or equal to 100% crit chance, gain 1% crit damage per crit, up to 200%. Then once this is capped, each manipulation attack will perform 2 effects instead of 1. So that's actually really good right here, considering the manipulation effects over here. And then the last passive right here is Divine Rituals. So if Dio Over Heaven is in range, both units will get 75% extra damage, and their AoEs will be full. And then every 3 to 7 Heavenly Chad attacks will stun Dio Over Heaven for 1.5 times this guy's SBA, and deal 3 times his damage, times his SBA divided by 1.5, basically math stuff. And then every 3 to 7 Dio Over Heaven attacks, you will stun the Jotaro Over Heaven for basically twice his SBA, and time stop all enemies for twice his SBA. So I would really argue that these guys are pretty good together, and you might actually want to have some team composition with these 2 units. But you know what, I'll get back to you all whenever I'm done with these and I have all of the tokens. Okay, and we are back. I just finished up the 5th stage, and I have all of the tokens. So we're gonna go ahead and extreme boost this guy right now. So this guy's gonna have some really good damage after this, because we only saw the Avatar without a Glorious. So now if we look at that, 2 billion damage, and that's not including his passives. Now, I do have to admit, I don't have Dio Over Heaven, but we're still going to go in infinite mode and look at this guy's damage. Okay guys, so we're here in the infinite game mode. Now as you can see, I kind of got way too much money compared to what I actually need. But anyway, upon placement, he has 3 passives. Now, one of them requires Dio Over Heaven, so if you do not have Dio Over Heaven, completely ignore the Divine Rivals passive, as this will not be useful. The other 2 passives, though, are very much useful without Dio Over Heaven, which the first one is Reality Overwrite. Now, I think I explained this earlier, but I might have misworded something, so we're going over it again. So when you're attacking an enemy with more than or equal to 4 different status effects, you permanently mark the enemy with Overwrite. Then if Dio Over Heaven is in range, you remove the requirement to mark enemies with Overwrite. Now, what does Overwrite do? Overwrite makes them take 45% more damage from crits, and it slows them by 15% permanently. Now, the second passive right here is where a lot of his damage is going to come from. So whenever a critical hit is missed, you will gain 5% crit chance permanently until 100%. At more than or equal to 100% crit chance, gain 1% crit damage per critical hit up to 200%. And then once capped, the Manipulations attack performs 2 effects instead of 1, which you get that passive over here on the 3rd upgrade. So we're going to go ahead and upgrade him a little bit, so his damage goes up pretty well here. Now, the Manipulations passive, upon attacking an enemy with Overwrite, cycle 1 effect every 3 attacks. So there's the Soul effect, which is 1.5% max HP damage with a cap of 1 trillion. The Biological Overwrite, or the Biological effect, which sets to neutral for 45 seconds, and they take 200% extra damage from all elements. Now, the Power deals 5 times damage to all enemies in range, which is really good. The Time, which will time stop all enemies in range for 5 seconds, and then lastly, the Healing one, which will cleanse debuffs of all units in range. Now, lastly, if you do have Dio Over Heaven in your range, then this will cycle every 3 attacks regardless of requirements. So this is a unit that you want to use with Dio Over Heaven. But let's go ahead and upgrade him a tiny bit more. So right here, now this is actually a really good damage and range on his own. Now yet again, if you had Dio Over Heaven, then the Heavenly or the Divine Rivals would give him 75% more damage. But without Dio Over Heaven, he's still a very solid unit, and I highly recommend getting him still, because he still has 2 abilities right here. The Existence Erasure ability makes all enemies die. It's basically Lelouch's ability right here. It instantly kills all enemies that are marked with Overwrite, so it's a slightly worse Lelouch ability. And then the second one is the Heavenly Domain, which time stops the entire map for 45 seconds. If enemies are afflicted with Overwrite, it will extend the time stop duration to 90 seconds, doubling it. And if Dio Over Heaven is in range, he will add 10 extra seconds to the time stop duration, and you will lower the cooldown of his own ability on a 110% cooldown. Wait, no, my bad. I misread that. So basically, if you use Heavenly Domain with Dio Over Heaven in range, it will put his ability on cooldown. So I misread that at first, my bad there. I kind of thought that meant something else. I don't know how I did. Yeah, I'm stupid. But yeah, this guy will be really good and probably fun to use with Dio Over Heaven, meaning now I gotta grind for him. But anyway, guys, that's the end of the video. Have a great day, good luck on the grind, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.
My name is Avertex5.